Tonight, we're going to spend some time thinking about Crewe and Stoke-on-Trent, investing in those areas. I want to share with you some up-to-date information and statistics about those different areas, the pros and the cons, the good and the bad. There's lots of opportunity for you to ask questions as well. I think that we're going to have some time at the end as well to ask questions, but I'm happy to take questions through the presentation. So if there's anything that suddenly strikes you, the best way is to put it in the chat panel. If you put a message in the chat panel, if you find the chat panel and just put a message in the chat panel, I'll keep an eye on that, and I will make sure that I check those messages. So if there's anything that, suddenly you think, I must ask Wendy this question, then please feel free to bob it in the chat panel. I'll come to it as soon as I possibly can. Now, some of you will know me through my training and mentoring program, which is called HMO Success, the Ultimate HMO Success System. And I train, mentor, and support people to develop high cash flowing HMOs, houses of multiple occupation. If you don't know what those are, don't worry. I'll explain all later. But some of you might also know me because of Best Nest and Best Nest Lets, which is my letting agency. When my portfolio got to a certain size, I realized that I needed a team to help me manage those properties. And so I set up Best Nest Lets. And as a business, we are expanding, and it's very exciting. And we're now, we've got the capacity to take on more clients. We want to help more people to invest. And also because we see the need. And I really, as many of you will know, I really believe in the private rental sector. The government might not believe in it, and we'll come on to that later, but I really do believe it. I think it's very powerful. I think it provides long-term, secure, safe accommodation for tenants. And I also think it is a good income for a landlord. And I really believe that when the two work together, when the two are happy, you've got a really good outcome. We've got many tenants who've been with us for more than 6 or 7 years. And I think it's because they like the accommodation that's on offer. It suits their lifestyle, it's affordable, and it allows them to do other things with their money. And maybe they never want to buy property, or maybe they want the flexibility that renting brings. There's all sorts of reasons why people rent property. And I, for one, am open to all those possibilities and reasons why people rent. But what I want to do is provide as much accommodation for those people. Okay, let's see if this will work. Yes, good, okay. So this is me. I'm sure that I know many of you I've met at different events and different venues and so on. And thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope what I have to share is of value to you, and you take away, not just one thing, but maybe a lot of things, a lot of information. So I'm an award-winning investor. In fact, that's me getting an award this year for my work on HMOs, which was mentioned earlier on. I founded Best Nest, Best Nest Lets, and HMO Success at different times in my kind of property investing career. But I've actually been investing since 1997. Good grief, that makes me sound so old, doesn't it? I was only about 3 at the time, she says. Not really. I wish. But yeah, I started in 1997, and actually my very first property was a student shared house, not far from where I live, actually. But then the college that was where all the students were studying closed down. So I turned that property back into a single family buy-to-let. Now, in those days, there was nothing like serviced accommodation or even the word HMO. There was no such thing as a house of multiple occupation. It hadn't been kind of created. So this was, kind of almost back in the arc. In fact, it was only just, I think the government had only just introduced buy-to-let mortgages. So it was they were very, very new. And I slowly grew up a portfolio of a handful of properties, and I was concentrating on my main career, which was a teacher in higher education. But about 2012, 2013, I suddenly had this kind of light bulb moment when I realized that I wasn't going to change my lifestyle by doing what I was doing. And I realized that I needed to do something different. I needed to go out of my comfort zone. I needed to invest more, and I needed to invest for cash flow. And after 2 years, I was able to leave my job, and also my husband Andy was able to leave his job in IT. And since then, this is about 2014, 2015, we have been full-time in property. Well, I say full time. I really don't want to be full time. In fact, it's really part time. Some weeks it's full time. This week's been full time. But most of the time, I actually prefer it to be part time in property so that I can do other things with my time. What's the point of having money if you haven't got time? So I've always invested in South Cheshire, North Staffordshire. I've got a spread of properties across those areas. That's the only place that I invest because I know it. I know the numbers, I know the figures, I know what to expect. I know when I see a good deal. I know when I find a property that's right to be an HMO. I know when I can see a good return. Now, in the early days, I didn't know some of that, but now I do. So that really, I think, gives me a bit of an edge because knowing your area is really key to success in property. So I've got commercial properties, I've got residential properties, houses, flats, apartments, HMOs, and also a pub. Yes, I do actually have a pub, and it's a real pub. It's a very, very real pub. You know, it's the sort of pub that you have to wipe your feet when you go out of the door, not when you come in. It's kind of one of those pubs. Um, and I've written two books about HMOs. You see those on the screen. They're both Amazon bestsellers, and so I'm kind of known really for HMOs in particular. But I really believe in investing across the whole piece. So I'm going to ask you a question now before I witter on anymore. Why invest? Why invest? I'd like your thoughts in the chat panel. Why are you here tonight? And why are you interested in investing? What is it about this investing thing that kind of fires you up, gets you going, makes you, lie awake in bed at night thinking? What is it that is your reason for investing? First answer in from Badar. Thank you very much, Badar. Increase your cash flow. I love it. That's really, really powerful. That's right. Kay says future and freedom. Yes, that's one of my core values, Kay, is freedom. I did it for freedom. I totally agree with you there. Tom says something to pass on to the kids. Yes, a legacy. That's lovely. And Robin says, because I love property and what I do. Amazing. That's great, Robin. Thank you. Roy says better exchange of time and money. Absolutely. Carl says financial freedom and hopefully extra time. Yes, totally. Lee says the potential to take control of my own life and time. That's a strong theme coming through there, Lee. Sarah says all of the above. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. So I think we're kind of all on the same page. John says create a different life, have more options on how to spend my time with family and friends. Brilliant. That's really, really nicely put, John. I love it. That's a really good way to express it. And isn't that true that when you have more income, it means you have a choice? You can carry on doing what you're doing, repeat, 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 or you can get to the point where you say, do you know what? We probably don't need to quite grow at this pace. Or maybe what we can do is we can grow bigger. We can do some bigger projects, bigger developments. Of course, you don't want to lose your shirt. If you heard my conversation with Tom earlier, there was probably some learning points there. There's always learning. As I say, every day's a school day. We're always learning. But I do feel that with property, it gives you the option, it gives you the freedom, and it will push you as well. It will sometimes make you feel uncomfortable. Property is a field where it doesn't stop. There's always movement. There's always something happening in the world of property, as we've seen this week with the Renters' Rights Bill. As we often see, it's very a big concern of government. It's a concern of the population. It's a concern of your tenants, if you have tenants, and it's possibly your concern as well. We all need somewhere to live. We all need a house to live in, don't we? Or a home to call our own. So therefore, property is a bit of a hot potato. But I think those of us who are passionate about it and want it to serve the community as well as serving ourselves, you kind of can't stop. It becomes a little bit like a drug, actually. You kind of want to keep going. And it's always there teasing you on about the next project or the next purchase and the next way to raise money to be able to expand your portfolio. So this screen kind of shows some of the things that you've talked about. How did I know? How did I know beforehand? Pension, something for the future, a legacy that was mentioned, cash flow, time, security maybe as well. That's that little icon on the right, sort of representing security. I think when you have property and you have assets that bring you cash every month, there is a sense in which, if you're in a full-time job or even a part-time job, it can feel very insecure. And you don't know whether that job's going to last for life. I think that whole idea about going to school, getting an education, getting a degree, and then having a career for life, that's really gone now, hasn't it? People don't have those kind of careers anymore. So finding some way of preserving your assets or growing your assets so that you have security for the future and cash flow for now, very, very powerful. And this is what makes property so attractive. And of course, in the middle there, we have a woman who's, achieved it, and she's got that lifestyle. She's eating lots of fruit, good for her. She's going to the gym and drinking lots of water, and she's got time to do what she wants to do. And time is a really important factor because that's the one thing we can't make any more of. You probably noticed that. I certainly feel it as the years go by. I can't make any more of my time. So whatever time I've got left, and I'm hoping I've got another. I've only had about half my life so far. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but anyway, I'm hoping that I've got another half to go. So you've got me a while longer, folks. Sorry to say. That's maybe a good thing or a bad thing. But the point is that however long we have left, we want to make the most of it, don't we? And I'm now in the position where my 3 older boys have grown up and left home, still see a lot of them, except not so much Sam, my eldest, because he lives in Brisbane in Australia. Although I did go last year to visit him, which was wonderful. And then we have Tom, my 16-year-old, my sort of final boy, my little baby boy. He's now 16, and he'll be growing up and leaving home. And we do travel a lot in the school holidays. We travel a lot because we love traveling, but we couldn't do that if we didn't have the income from property. And once he leaves home, we'll have even more time and freedom. Except if he goes to university, and then I think, dear mooly, that's where all my income's going to go. But hey ho, that's being a mum, isn't it? Tonight's session, what's the purpose of it? Well, 3 things. Number 1, I want to give you some relevant information. So if you're looking to invest in these areas, if you're excited and inspired to invest, you've got some stuff you can go out straight away and do. Actionable content is number 2. And number 3, if you're not sure what to do next, or you just want somebody else as a kind of listening ear, maybe a guiding light, what are your next steps? How can you work with me, with Best Nest? How can I just help you? No commitment. There's nothing to, I'm not selling anything. I'm just here explaining what you can do and what your next steps might be if you decide that's what you want to do next. So first of all, let's start with Crewe. So here you can see on the right-hand side, a map of the northwest of the UK, and this is where Crewe is, that little star there. Now, Crewe has got a population of about 90,000 people. It's not a huge town. It's not a city, but it is growing. Actually, over the last few years, we've seen quite a big growth in the population in Crewe. And it's got a very strong Eastern European population, which is really good. There's lots of lovely Eastern European families in the town and individuals who come to work. And you probably heard of Bentley Motor Cars. They are based in Crewe. Big employer in Crewe, but there are also other big employers as well. There's a quite big hospitality industry, obviously the railways, not as big as it once was, but still there's a very strong sense of the railway being part of Crewe. Quite a lot of retail and also distribution centres. AO has got a very big distribution centre in Crewe. So there's quite a lot of, if you like, outflow from those different industries and those different economies. And this is very interesting in terms of, therefore, the kind of tenants that you'll get. Mostly, well, we only rent to working people. So working tenants is who we rent to. And some of them are at the managerial level, but mostly we find they're more at the kind of blue collar level, tenant. But that's kind of traditional for, a northern town. Now, Cheshire East is the local council here. So if you were to need a licence for your HMO, you would have to apply to Cheshire East Council. And point number three, and I'm sorry it's got a bit sort of wobbly there. Maybe that was my sort of, kind of mental wobble over Article 4. I don't know. It's come out like that, hasn't it? It's interpreted my subconscious feeling. Now, Article 4, if you're not familiar with this term, I'll briefly explain it. In certain areas of the country where there are large populations and large concentrations of HMOs, the local council has restricted the ability to create an HMO in specific areas. And that's called an Article 4 legislation or an Article 4 restriction. And it basically means that you can't have a house of multiple occupation in that area unless you get planning permission first. Because ordinarily, you can have a house where up to 6 people share and you don't have to get planning permission. But in an Article 4 area, even if you only have 3 people who are unrelated sharing, that makes it an HMO, and you still need to have planning permission in an Article 4 area. So in Crewe, they introduced Article 4 a few years ago, and if you want to know where those Article 4 areas are, because it's very clearly marked out, you can just go on the Cheshire East Council website and you can just search on Article 4 and all the maps will come up and you can see from the maps where the Article 4 areas are. And I would recommend that if you're thinking about HMOs, that you have a look at that first. Now, it doesn't mean to say you absolutely cannot have an Article 4, have an HMO in the Article 4 area. Because if you apply for planning permission, you might be lucky and they might say, yes, you can have it. But it's a risk. And if you've got to be prepared that you might not get the planning permission, in which case you have to have a plan B. So if you find the map, then you can see exactly where the edges of that map are, and then it makes your decision a little bit easier about where to buy a property or where to invest. List of employers there: Bentley, Tesco, Leighton Hospital, spelt wrongly, sorry about that, I must have done that a bit too quickly. Leighton Hospital, they're also large employers. And the average rents for single buy-to-let, actually, I don't think it is quite 880. I would say it's a little bit lower than that now. I would say it's probably more about 800. I don't really know why 880 is on the slide. I should have said 800, and I'll show you the statistics in a little while. I've got some very good websites that I go to, and I'm going to share those with you so that if you want to keep checking some of these statistics, you can find them yourself. But I would say the average rent for a single buy-to-let is about 880. Sorry, 800. I meant 800. So just a few other facts about Crewe. Why do I think Crewe is still great to invest in? Now, like many other countries in the UK, we've seen property prices go up, property prices come down, up, down. They always do a little bit of a sort of wobbly line like this, but generally they continue to go up. And I'm going to show you just how much Crewe property prices have gone up over the last few years. We don't see the fluctuations that maybe you see in London. London prices seem to go up very, very sharply and then they plateau. In the Northwest, I think we're fairly similar to other parts of the Midlands where we see gradual house price growth. But one of the things that I think is very important at the moment, and a bit sad, but it's a bit of a salutary point, is that there is demand for property is outstripping supply. When I show you how much is available at the moment in Crewe to let, I think you'll be shocked. But I'll come to that in a moment. So demand for rental property is outstripping supply. Average rental is about £800 a month. Now, only, I would say, 18 months ago, average rents were about £680. And probably 18 months before that, average rents were about £520. So just in the last 4 or 5 years, sort of since just before COVID, actually, and then post-COVID, we've really seen a massive explosion in rental prices, which is not good for tenants. It's harder for tenants. It's much more expensive for them. So I feel for them. I really do. But on the other hand, we are in a market economy. Room rents are averaging, according to Spare Room, £512 a month. So that's a room in an HMO would be charged at £512 a month. Our average room rents are actually a bit higher than that in Best Nest. Our average room rents are about 565 because we have generally better quality rooms. We have some more what you call basic rooms, but a lot of our rooms are really nice quality rooms, so our average rents are a bit higher. Reason number two why you should think about Crewe: house price is still below the national average. In fact, today I looked at an average price for a two-bed is £120,000. So, in fact, again, you see this slight fluctuation in pricing going up and down. But there are some strong capital growth prospects. Oh, and by the way, I must say a disclaimer. Andy said this to me earlier on. He said, "You must say you're not a financial advisor." I have to give you some warnings here. I am not a qualified financial advisor. I cannot give you financial advice. So anything I'm sharing tonight is simply from my own experience and my own knowledge. And if you wish to take it away and use it to invest, please take independent financial advice from somebody who is regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. There. Hope you got that message. Number three, Crewe has some great transport links. So there's bus, rail, motorway network all across the northwest, in fact, all across the UK. You can get to London in about 1 hour 30. I think maybe the fast train is 1 hour 20. You know, really, really good train connections into London. So there's some really good connectivity in Crewe. And I've said possible HS2 location because I don't know if you've heard, but Labour are thinking about possibly reviving the HS2 project, even though the Conservatives got rid of it. We shall see. We shall see. I think people of Crewe are a bit disappointed when it didn't go ahead, but who knows? It might yet still, raise its head above the parapet. We might still get HS2 in Crewe. Okay, I'm going to move to Stoke next and do a sort of little bit of a comparison. And it's quite interesting because Stoke is not far from Crewe, about 12 miles to the east, southeast of Crewe. Again, you can see on the map there. Now, Stoke is much bigger than Crewe. It's a city, and they have some very big employers there. Bet365, Michelin, JCB, which is a little bit further out, kind of more towards Uttoxeter. Again, lots of hospitality. There's a lot of retail as well, and the potteries. You know, the Stoke-on-Trent's known as the potteries, so there's still a lot of jobs in the pottery sector, and obviously less than there were, but the pottery manufacturing industry is still happening in Stoke, and there's some really lovely places you can visit. If you wanted to go and do a sort of potteries tour, you can go on one of these kind of walking tours and go to the various different potteries, which is fascinating, actually. Now, the population is 250,000, so obviously significantly bigger than Crewe. Stoke-on-Trent Council is the council for Stoke. If you're investing in Newcastle-under-Lyme, so the sort of south and the sort of west of Stoke, that is Newcastle Borough Council would be your council that you'd be liaising with. They've got two large universities, Keele and Stoke. Now, one of the things that we have to remember, I probably should explain, is that Stoke-on-Trent is not synonymous with Stoke. I know, it fools most people. Stoke-on-Trent is made up of a number of towns. So you've got Tunstall, Hanley, Fenton, Longport. Somebody's going to point out one that I've missed. Tunstall, or Burslem. I think that's the other one, Burslem. I think those are the 5 towns of Stoke-on-Trent. Now, you've also got Stoke, which is a bit odd, isn't it? Anyway, Stoke is counted as an area of Stoke-on-Trent, a bit like in London, you have, Kensington and Chelsea, and you have, I don't know, you have Angel Islington, and you have other parts of London which kind of differentiate the communities, and you'll find some people who'll say, do you live in I live in Streatham, or you might say to somebody, do you live in Streatham? No, I live in Streatham Hill, and Streatham Hill is right next door to Streatham, but in their mind it's like 100 miles away, totally different. And that's the same really in Stoke. If you said to somebody, do you come from Stoke? They would say, no, I come from Hanley. And you think, oh, I thought that was the same place. Stoke-on-Trent is the overall umbrella place, and Stoke is an area within Stoke-on-Trent. Don't get it wrong, because I have had it wrong, and somebody sort of slapped me down like, how do you not know that, Wendy? So there we go. That's just a word for the wise. There's a strong tourism demand in Stoke as well, or I should say Stoke-on-Trent, because you've got Alton Towers. Who hasn't had a good day out at Alton Towers? And Stoke-on-Trent is the nearest big city to Alton Towers. And there's lots of local heritage. Even our pub is in Middleport, and Middleport is where Middleport Pottery is. And if you've ever seen the Great Pottery Throwdown on BBC One or Two or iPlayer, our pub is about a 2-minute walk from Middleport Pottery. There you go. So if you ever want a little day out, you could go to Middleport Pottery and then go and have a half a pint or a pint in the White Swan is our pub. The other thing about Stoke-on-Trent is there's a large teaching hospital, and this is a very important hub, actually, because there's a lot of people who come to Stoke to work at the hospital. So we find around the hospital, Hartshill, Penkhull, Trent Vale, these areas are very, very good actually for professional HMOs, because it's not so much of a student area, but these are areas which work really well. They've got some really good houses as well, good properties that you can develop. But watch out, because very near the hospital there is a conservation area. Now, this is similar to Article 4, but not identical. It is a planning restriction, just like Article 4, and it means that there's certain things about properties you can't change. So just have a look out. If you're thinking of investing, again, have a chat with me, book in a call, we'll go through it all and I can explain what to do, what not to do. I've nearly got caught out with that. One of my HMOs is on a road called Princess Road, and it's just on the edge of the conservation area. And thank goodness it was okay, because we just found out in time, but we wouldn't have been able to change the windows, and certain external things we couldn't have done because of where the property was situated. And this is what is a bit more complex about HMOs, is that there's more, if you like, rules and regulations, there's more legislation to be aware of. So it's really important that you know what you're doing before you get into it. Some other Stoke-on-Trent facts. That's a picture of Stoke Minster. Did you know it had a minster? Yes, it does. It's not a cathedral, but it's a sort of mini cathedral, and it's beautiful. If you get a chance to go, do go and visit it. Right, so what are the other facts about Stoke that make it a good place to invest? Well, there's strong employment and growth. We see this year on year. And if you look at the demographics for Stoke, you'll see that actually there's more people of working age than in old age. And if you know anything about demographics, you'll know that the UK is heading for a bit of a demographic time bomb. I think they're saying that in 30 years or something, no, 40 years, the average age is going to be 85 in the UK. Well, that's not good from the point of view of healthcare, taxes, pensions. It's going to be a problem. So investing somewhere where there's a young population, and you can get this on, there's a site called streetchecker.com. And if you go on streetchecker.com, you can put in a postcode and you can find out all about the demographics in your area. And it's really helpful because it will tell you what kind of people live in that area. Are they professionals? Are they retired? Are they families? Are they good schools, etc.? That's a really good way of kind of looking up at an area if you're not used to it, or you don't know it very well. Reason number 2, people migrate to Stoke for work reasons, including the hospital, and they're not looking to purchase a house. So there's lots of people looking to rent. Now, of course, that's good, isn't it, for you? Because you've got property and you want to rent it out. So it's ideal to have a ready and willing market. That's what you want. And reason number 3, the rental yields are very good. So they're one of the best in the country. Historically, they've always been good. 7 to 9% range is a standard buy-to-let, which is actually pretty good from a standard residential perspective. Probably we would want to get a return on investment of infinite, and that's slightly different from the yield. But still, the yield is important, and I would try and aim for about a 10% yield. I think for nowadays, with my sort of knowledge, I suppose, and my input, I can get 10% yields on a lot of my properties. But 7 to 9% is still a pretty good yield, and I think a lot of people in London would, give their eye teeth if they could get that kind of yield from a property. So this is one of the websites that I wanted to share with you. It's called home.co.uk. And I think this is a really good website, but a bit underused. Not many people know about it. And it's fantastic because you just literally put in a postcode or a town and it will give you lots of data about that place. And I'm a bit of a sort of data freak. I kind of like to know statistics and numbers and things like that. And this is the front, when you go into home.co.uk and I put in Crewe, this is just earlier today. Now, I just want you to have a quick scooch of that site. Obviously, there's a lot of data. Is there anything that strikes you about looking at the numbers or the figures on that page? Anything that sort of, you think, ooh, just stick it in the chat panel. Is there anything that kind of occurs to you when you look at the numbers on the page? John, you got it in one. There's not a lot to rent, is what John says. Kay saying max rental properties between 500 and 1,000. Yes, that's right. The median is between 500 to 1,000 per month rent. That's well spotted, actually. Yeah, very good. So average rents are, they say 777. Yeah, I don't know where I got it from, 800, but anyway, it's about that figure. I think, of course, that will include rooms to rent as well. So that will bring down the average cost. You can see there's nothing under £250. There's 21 between 250 to 500. And then there's the average is between 500 to 1,000. And there's some 1,000 to 2,000. What struck me most was that there are 80,000 people living in Crewe and there's 107 homes for rent. There is not much stock available. And this website gets a lot of data from all the estate agents, letting agents in Crewe. It draws it from all of those different sites. You can go on to home and see where it gets the data from. Yes, Lee, absolutely. Almost a quarter of the rents are listed within the last 14 days, 24 rents. So that shows you the turnover, doesn't it? That shows you how quickly things are being rented out. I'm going to show you a property in a moment, actually, that we've had for a while, and it came up. The tenants have been there for 8 years, I think, and we've literally just given it a bit of a clean, a very light lick of paint, and it's gone on the market, and it's immediately rented out. It's still nice, but it's not, super duper nice. It's not kind of, perfect, but it's still a lovely family home. Now, if we look at Stoke, so this is exactly the same layout, but for Stoke-on-Trent. Again, same kind of thing, 411 homes for rent. So more, but then of course you'd hopefully expect more because there's, 3 times as many people. Average rent is again very similar to Crewe, 790 here, and that probably also includes rooms. 75 new in the last 14 days. So again, just under a quarter new in the last 14 days. And 500 to £1,000 is the kind of median rent here. So exactly what Kate was saying earlier on. So very, very similar. And this is what I've noticed really with Stoke and Crewe. The numbers, the size of the area is different. The volume of property is more in Stoke than it is in Crewe. But in terms of the numbers, it's often very, very similar. So let me just perhaps talk to you a little bit about a property in Crewe that we've had for a number of years. And you'll see how, I suppose, my thinking has slightly changed, but also how I can help you to invest if you're looking to invest in one of these areas. So this is a 2-bed, we call it a cottage. When it was sold to us, the estate agent said, oh, it's a lovely cottage. I don't really know what makes a cottage exactly, but anyway, it's just a 2-bed terraced house. Let's be absolutely honest. Let's call a spade a spade. It's a 2-bed terraced house. It's a nice area. It's not far from Bentley, actually. There's a good size kitchen diner. You can see that in the bottom right photo. There's a nice living room, 2 bedrooms upstairs and a bathroom. It's a very simple 2-bed buy-to-let. And you can see the little picture of the garden as well. It's got a nice little garden. So it's nice for a small family. and it's got off-street parking, and there's a nice little corner shop up the road, and it's a nice, sweet little house. So we bought this in 2006. Now, does anybody remember what happened about 18 months, sort of 2 years after 2006? I'm sure you do remember. It was the financial crash. Yes, thank you, John. Absolutely. So we bought this really just before the financial crash. And I think had we waited, we probably could have got it a bit cheaper. But we didn't know it was going to happen. Who knew? Nobody knew. So we paid £81,500 for it. I think maybe we spent a bit less than 8,000, but well, whatever. Let's say 8,000. We put in new windows. We put in a new bathroom. This is the days when you could really get things, reasonably cheaply. We put in a new kitchen, and we redecorated throughout. So it was a light refurb. And now that property is worth £132,000. And the rental income we get from that is £780 per calendar month. The tenant has just moved in. Now, admittedly, we haven't refinanced this property. We haven't taken any more money out of it. So the mortgage is still quite low. It's about a £57,000 mortgage. And we've had it for 8 years, had the property for 8 years. And we've literally had 2 tenants in there. This lady who's just moved in, she's our 3rd tenant in the whole time we've had that property. Now, for me, this is a very good kind of bread and butter type property. Looking back, I think we probably paid a little bit too much for it then. However, it has gone up quite significantly in value. We've had very steady rental income. We've never had a void. And for me, this is the kind of thing that probably the retail investors will be buying all the time, if they can get the structure right and the tax right, of course. But this is a really classic kind of buy-to-let property. And Crewe has these properties available. You can still buy property in Crewe. I looked earlier. If you're prepared to buy at auction, you can buy something for anywhere between £60,000 and £90,000. Admittedly, it needs a bit more than £8,000 worth of work. You'll be spending more than that, I can assure you. Nevertheless, properties like this still exist. There are still good value properties out there that you can add value to, and you can get a really good return on. Now, to compare that to another property in Stoke. Now, interestingly, this is my 3rd son's first buy-to-let property, and this is in a place called Small Thorn in Stoke. And this is a 2-bed house in slightly better condition, actually. It's recently been refurbished, and it's got, again, nice lounge in the sort of front room, and then there's a back lounge, there's a kitchen, there's a downstairs bathroom, upstairs there's 2 bedrooms, and one of the bedrooms got an ensuite. It's kind of very similar to the other property, the Minchell New Road property. He bought this year for £90,000. He paid for this property. He gets £850 a month rental income. His mortgage and all costs, he's on an interest-only mortgage, are £350 a month. So he makes £500 a month on this property. And that's £6,000 per annum. He put in £22,500 as the deposit, 25% deposit. And so you can see he's basically making about 30% return on investment on that property, because he's got £22,500 he's put in, and he's making £6,000 per annum net income from that property. So it just goes to show that if you look around, if you find these properties, if you find the right thing, these deals can still be found. It's not like parts of London where you can't find properties at 2006 prices. The market has moved on massively. In the Northwest, it's still possible to do this. It's still possible to find these little, and actually this one was one of the more expensive ones that he looked at. He was looking at properties between £80,000 and £90,000. So this is top of his budget, but he saw this one and we both agreed, there was no work to do. Literally about the week after he got the keys, we were advertising it, and about a week after that, the tenant moved in, and Best Nest manages that property for him. So he hasn't had to do anything. It's completely hands-free for his point of view. Literally, he just gets paid his rent every month, and we look after everything for him. So, it's a really easy one. And there are lots of these properties around. If you know what to look for, if you know where to find them, if you know the ins and outs, you can do this too. Now, one of the things we often get asked at Best Nest is, well, could you help me? Could you help me do this? So we do have a pricing structure to help investors who maybe don't live so locally and are looking to find property and are looking to, get started in property. Because buy-to-let is a very easy, nice way to get started. If you've got some cash saved up, maybe you've got some cash in a savings plan, it's not doing so well. Even with interest rates going up, they might come down. So you might be thinking, what else can I do? So we offer sourcing. We can find a property for you, and we charge 2.5% of the purchase price, subject to a minimum of £2,500. And that can be HMOs, single buy-to-lets, even commercial in some cases as well. We have a project management arm as well. We have a team that we work with who will project manage, do the refurb for you. We can get a builder, we can look after the team, and we would work with you to make sure that the specification was exactly what you're looking for as well, so that you get the property refurbished to the condition that you want with your choice of kitchens and bathrooms and furnishings and so on. And then we also have a management service. That's how the lettings team, the Best Nest Lets, was created. So upwards of 10% for rental, we've got a whole price list for HMOs, buy-to-let, commercial, etc. Really experienced lettings team. I've been heading up the lettings team since we launched. Now we have a general manager, Annabelle, who looks after that, but she's kind of very much, we work very closely together. So she's guided by me. And we're fully compliant. We're registered with the Property Ombudsman, and we're registered with the NRLA. So we're registered with all the correct trade bodies to make sure that we look after you. And we also offer 24/7 support for tenants. So if they have any problems at all, they can always call in any time of the day or night, and there will be somebody who will pick up their call and triage it to the appropriate person, particularly if it's an emergency. So again, if you're interested in management, we'd love to talk to you. We're looking to take on more properties. We think there's a huge potential there, and we think that we can probably maximize rents as well. And I think that for some letting agents, they're a bit cautious about putting up rents, but we have a rent review process every quarter. So we review all our rents every quarter to make sure that they're keeping up to date with the market. And as you know, we cover South Cheshire and North Staffordshire. So we don't go as far as Manchester. We're not really down to Birmingham. We're kind of quite a sort of discrete area, but we do cover Newcastle-under-Lyme and areas in between as well. If you fancy doing something in Congleton, we'd be open to that. Or Stone's a lovely place, or Leek even. So if you're fancying kind of looking at something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, again, just come and talk to us. Come and talk book a call in with me, and I'll give you the link at the end, and we can have a chat about it. Now, how many of you would like to see an HMO project? Would you like to see what's possible with HMOs in this area? Or are you just interested perhaps in single buy-to-lets and flats? Would you like to see an HMO project? We'll wait for the chat panel to wake up. Lee's keen. He said yes. Carl said yes. Good. Anybody else want to see it? Mike's yes. He wants to. Sarah wants to. Sarah, you've probably seen this one already, Sarah. John. Okay, good. Right. So I think that having a portfolio of mixed different types of properties is really good. And when I started, I built my foundation on buy-to-lets, and I had about 5 or 6 buy-to-lets before I went into HMOs. I think looking back, that was useful because I understood buy-to-lets before I got into HMOs, and also because I just had a good grasp of what property investing meant. And even now, I still feel it's been a really good foundation, and I would recommend for most people that they start with 1 or 2 buy-to-lets. But I do know for some people, they haven't got time to wait around. They know that time is money, money is time, and they do not want to wait to make their money, and they want to jump straight into HMOs. And if that's you, that doesn't mean to say it's impossible. Doesn't mean to say you shouldn't do it. Maybe you should. It all depends. It all depends on your personal circumstances, your attitude to risk, your knowledge, your education, because there are pitfalls for the unwary. But if you do decide to get into HMOs, there are also some great opportunities around. So this is a project that we did just prior to COVID, actually, so it's a few years old now. We're doing a 6-bed HMO. We're project managing that in Crewe for some investors. That's going to be a very exciting one as well. Really looking forward to kind of getting our teeth into that one. And we regularly consult on other people's HMOs, again, which is really useful and interesting because I get to see what's happening and trending in the sector. So let me talk you through this particular property. A rather strange looking property. You wouldn't tell from the outside that you could have 7 rooms in this property, but this was a 7-bedroom. We turned it into a 7-bedroom HMO. So as you can see, it's kind of L-shaped, and this was the floor plan that we created as a 7-bed HMO. So you can see all the different rooms labeled. I will actually show you the original one. I've kind of done this a bit back to front. This is the original floor plan. Let's start here. So this is the original floor plan. The rear yard, so the property's on a sort of triangle plot. And on the left, you've got a rear yard. And we had a utility room at the back with a shower, kitchen, dining room, sitting room. And then on the left, you had the lounge, office, and the storage room. And then upstairs, we had a really big bathroom, 3 bedrooms, and a dressing room. Now, if I go back, you'll see how we created this into a 7-bed property. So you still walk in to the sitting room, and on the left, that room that was, I think, the office became a bedroom with an ensuite. The middle room, we converted into a shared kitchen for these 2 rooms, and then the room on the left here, this is another bedroom with an ensuite. Go back into the sitting room. We moved the kitchen from it was in where room 3 is now. That's where the kitchen was. We moved that into the sitting room, or the dining room, I think it was called. It's a bit like Cluedo. Room, if you like, the kitchen became room 3, and then the dining room became the kitchen. And we made the back room, which had all the kind of, the water and the drainage and everything, that became the ensuite for room 3. And then upstairs, we were very clever upstairs, because what we did was room 7, which was the bathroom. This was a huge family bathroom. So we converted that into an ensuite because it was big enough. It was so big we could convert it into a bedroom with an ensuite. So the ensuite is obviously just a shower, toilet, wash hand basin. But by rejigging the space, we made it into a bedroom. And the other 3 rooms stayed as bedrooms. But room 4, we developed the dressing room into an ensuite room. Now, what about the finances here? Because that's what everybody always wants to know. So on the right-hand side of the screen, hopefully you can see the numbers there. So the purchase price was 123,250, and we found this property and we sourced it for an investor. The sourcing fee was 3,690. The cost of the refurb was £76,500. Our project management fee was 10% of that. So the total project cost was £211,000, give or take. Now, what I like to do is to divide up the cost of the whole project by the number of units created, so I can see how much each lettable unit costs me to create. Now, in this case, it's £30,000, which is a really good price. Nowadays, to set your expectation, I would expect it to be £40,000. £30,000 is really not achievable in the current market rates for labour and construction costs and materials. You're really probably not, unless you buy the building for next to nothing, it's very, very hard to get a unit cost of £30,000 nowadays. £40,000 is kind of my yardstick. If I get it for less, crack open the champagne. If I don't, then it's still okay, because the other point is that rents have also gone up. So although the cost of producing the unit has gone up, the actual income you get is higher as well. So we have to compare like with like. Now, this property was revalued on a commercial valuation. And if you don't know what a commercial valuation is, it's a way of valuing a property based on the rental income rather than on the bricks and mortar. And it happens for properties generally which are 6 beds or more for an HMO. You can get a commercial valuation. So because the rents were really good on this property, the valuer came in and said, yep, you value this at £285,000. The investor then took a 75% loan to value mortgage on it and took all his money out, which was great. And the gross rental income on this property, actually, this is a couple of years ago, £38,000. It's actually gone up. It's about £41,000 now. So the net income is about £20,000 on this particular property with a mortgage on it. So it's it's good strategy, really good strategy. So what the investor had to put in was the deposit. He bought it on a bridging finance. The deposit, the cost of the bridging finance, sourcing fee, and the project management fee, and the cost of the refurb. So it was, let's call it, say, 85, maybe £90,000 he had to find. But at the end of that, all of that money came back to him when he had it refinanced. And then it was an infinite return. So, a really good return on that particular project. Okay, this is another project that we did. This is just a standard terraced house. Actually, it was a 2-bed house, and we turned it into a 3-bed house. This is an interesting one because this is, if you look at the property, you'll see the photo of the property there on the slide. Now, how do you think, for those of you that are very eagle-eyed, you might spot this. How do you think we turned this from a 2-bed house into a 3-bed house? Any hot shots out there who have got a very good creative eye and could see what we did? Okay, I love it. Loft conversion, very, very clever. But we didn't do that one. Sarah converted the front room. Very clever, but we didn't do that one. Lee extended the top floor out. You're getting warm there, Lee. Nearly. Kay, extension to the yard. Good idea. I love it. But the winner tonight is Paresh. Oh, somebody else I think has said it. Robin might have said it. Yeah, John I think has said it. Carl, no, we didn't convert the bathroom. Thank you very much. Nice to see you, Mike. If you have to leave, I'll send you the recording. Great to have you here this evening, though. Thank you for coming. So some really good ideas. What we did, folks, if you look at the picture, you'll see that there's a bedroom there with 2 windows. So we have a window on the left and then that nice little sort of archway window on the right. That was a really big master bedroom. So we took one look at that master bedroom and we thought we could have a single on the right using the window and we could have a double on the left using the other window. So we just partitioned it. That's all we did and created a 3-bed from a 2-bed. But what does that do? If you add another, just a wall, a partition wall is all it was. We did put in some insulation, of course, as well, so that there was some sound insulation, etc. But what does doing something like that do to a property, as well as obviously give it more space? What's the other kind of, impact? John, you are on fire tonight, mate. Yes, and Sarah, very, very good. And Kay, amazing. I love it. Really good. So John says increase the value. Boom, he's right. Kay says add value through refinancing or when you want to refinance. Yes, right. More rent for 3 bedrooms. Uplift the value £20,000. Well, there we go. You can see there. So the total project cost was £87,000. Now the revaluation came in at £95,000. And we thought, okay. So we've added £8,000. It's not, tremendous, but we don't need to refinance this. Actually, I did this as a, when I say we, because I actually I co-own this property because I actually did it as a bit of a deal with a friend of mine. So yeah, we kind of had an agreement that he would pay me to source it and to project manage it. He would put in all the cash, and we would kind of go halves on the rent. That's how we did the joint venture. So when it came to the revaluation, we just thought, well, do you know what? Is it worth really refinancing it? Probably not, because actually we would rather have the cash flow, the extra cash flow from the 3 bedrooms, and have a lower amount on the mortgage. So we kept the mortgage. The mortgage was, I think, £65,000, £62,000, and every month the rent would come in, we'd pay the mortgage, and my friend was very happy to leave the money in that he had on the proviso that when one day we sell that property, he will get his money out first, and then anything that's left over will split 50-50. So I thought that was very good of him. Now, the property up until about I don't know, a few weeks ago, was rented at 615. About to see, a new figure there. I think it'll be more like 800, maybe 850, maybe 900 even for a 3-bed house in Crewe. So prior to that tenant leaving, we were getting £7,380 a year. Net income per annum was 6,380 because we had a very good mortgage deal on this one. I think we're probably going to see some mortgages like that come in sooner, actually, rather than later, because I think interest rates are coming down. So we got a 40% return on capital employed on that particular building. So really, again, a really good project in how to add some value to a property. So what does this tell you? I've just given you a bit of a snapshot of a few different projects we've done. Some have given us better cash flow, some have given us better return on investment, some have given us better yield. What have you learned from seeing and watching and listening to what I've said so far? Badar says opportunities. Kay, you also say there are opportunities. Yes. Yeah, love it. Love it. That's great. Really, really good. That's excellent. What else? What else does this tell you? Paresh says, don't wait, take action. Yeah. You've got to get going, haven't you? Because property benefits from you holding it for a long time. Sometimes we have to sell, sometimes exiting does happen. John says, knowledge is power. That's a great phrase. I love it. Rakaya, demand is out there. Nice to have you, Rakaya. Lovely to have you here this evening. Kay says, buy to let is not dead if you know what you're doing. Absolutely. Carl Sparks says, thinking out the box, there are opportunities. Yes, there are, aren't there? Now, there's a few things we've learned as well. We've learned some things as well in our journey to invest. Robin, yes, build a good power team. That's very, very important that you do that. Very important that you do that. So there's a few things that we've learned as well, and I want to share those learnings with you. First of all, smaller properties allow you to maximize your income per square meter. So rather than buying a 3-bed, find a 2-bed that you can convert into a 3-bed, because you will maximize your income per square meter on that property. If you buy to refurbish and to grow the value, it works best when you can buy with an option to improve it and refinance onto the long term, and where you're buying about 25% below market value. Because that way, when you come to refinance, you've got the value built in. And I think one of the things I learned from the West Avenue project, which is the 2-bed to the 3-bed project, was that we probably didn't buy quite low enough. I think we bought that for £67,000. If it'd been more like 60, we probably would have then had enough headroom to refinance and get all our money out of that deal. But actually, it partly depends on what your goals are. For example, my business partner who I bought that with, actually said to me, I don't want to take the money out of that property, Wendy, and refinance and go through that headache because I don't know what to do with the money. Once I've got that money out, what am I going to do with it? I've got nowhere to put it straight away. So for some people, you've got money in savings and they're just sitting there giving you nothing. Put it into property. It's quite a simple transaction. Doesn't take a lot of time. Yes, there's things you've got to learn to be able to do it right, but you can do it. It's really easy to get started, and you've then got an asset. And with inflation, your money is going down in value in the bank, but it's going up in value if you buy a property. Third thing we've learned, HMOs still have plenty of demand where they are good quality. So if you can offer good quality housing, you'll find lots and lots of demand for your rooms. Buy-to-lets are still desperately needed. We're seeing the rents go up. We're seeing those being pushed up and up and up and up all the time, which is a reflection of how much they're needed. So you getting into this, you will always find a demand. And one of the things when you're starting a new business is to know that you've got a market. Will your customers be there? Will they want to buy what you have to offer? Because if you've put a lot of money and time and effort into a property, the last thing you want is for it to be sat empty. And of course, that's why you need to work with a good letting agent who can also fill your rooms or fill your property and manage them well as well. And number 5, you can buy, like my son did this year, you can buy ready-made buy-to-lets where you can put your cash in and get it working from day one. Great. So there's lots of options. You don't have to go at this 10 to the dozen. You don't have to go for it hell for leather and do those kind of big things that other people might be doing. You can just furrow your own, you can plow your own furrow. You can make your own path. And if in 5 years' time you think, I'd now like to refinance, take some money out and go again, or if what you're doing is working, you might find other people are interested and want to lend you money, and you can use that to buy property with. And there's ways of doing that. And I won't go into all the whys and wherefores today, but there are ways in which you can use other people's money as well. So you don't even have to put your own money in to make this work. Now, this is a slide that I'm afraid I had to do, even though, probably we're all shuddering at the images that are on this particular slide. So take a deep breath. Okay, what are the what ifs? What do you think are the what ifs and the why nots and the risks? There's a few ideas on the chat panel, but what do you think they mean? What are they all about? Tell me in the chat panel what you think. Sorry, there are a few ideas on the screen, I should say, on the images. Yep, Kay has started us off with interest rates. Now, interest rates have not been very low this year. The last couple of years, they've gone up, haven't they? But they are starting to come down again. And there's very good evidence to say that interest rates are going to keep coming down. Keep an eye this week on the Treasury, the US Treasury, because often when they lower rates, we follow. And I don't think it's going to be long before our interest rates start to come down, which is good for investing. And on that point, John, you make a very good point that you need to stress test your numbers for interest rates. Absolutely. And in fact, a mortgage company, when they look at your, when they look to lend to you, they will be looking at stress testing, which is normally about 125% of the interest only element of the mortgage. They want to know that the rental is covering that. Sarah, she's right. Laws changing to make it harder for landlords. Well, is it going to be harder? Possibly. Does that mean that there are more opportunities for those of us who are prepared to go through those hoops, to be creative, to find solutions, to find opportunities? I think that's where I'm headed. I think it's going to be actually quite good for those of us who decide we still want to do this and we're prepared to do it. And we're going to learn how to navigate the new legislation, and actually how to make sure we protect ourselves as well, because there are ways to do that. There are structures. You could invest in a limited company rather than in your own name, and then capital gains tax is not really going to affect you. That you could take on guarantors. All our rents now, we have guarantors for all our new tenancies, and we've been doing that for about a year now. Now, so far, that's not been mentioned in the Renters Reforms Bill, the Renters' Rights Bill. Shh, don't tell anybody, okay? You heard it here first. But that's a really important way to make sure that tenants pay their rent, is if you have a guarantor. It really holds them to account. Robin says, he who dares, Rodney, he who dares. Yes, so true. I love that, Robin. Thank you. The government doesn't like investors and landlords. You're right, John. So we have to be very astute and aware and plan and think and be educated. Ruqaiya also mentions the Renters Reform Bill, how that affects tenancies. I think the downside is going to be, as we see, a lot of landlords are going to say, do you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. Now, I would say to those landlords, if you're wobbling and you're worried, come and speak to us, because as a letting agent, we can deal with all of that headache for you. We can be the ones who sort out the paperwork, make sure that you're compliant, make sure that we're compliant. We take on that risk so that you can still just do what you love doing, which is buying property and having it rented out, whether you do a refurb or a lick of paint or whatever you're doing on your properties. Let us shoulder the burden with you, because now that is the approach it's going to take, is that you need to be working partnership with somebody who knows what they're doing, is on that, is on that sort of horizon scanning view to see what's coming up and can deal with it and can address it so that you are never left in the cold and that the risk never falls back onto you. Kay says Section 21 has gone. Section 24 is punishing landlords. Legislation penalising even genuine landlords. You're right. It's terrible, absolutely dreadful. And part of me as a campaigner and a fighter and a warrior wants to stand up and fight even more against this. And I suspect I probably will. But I think it's also really important to say that this is not going to stop me investing in property, because people need somewhere to live. And I know that if it gets to the point where people are withdrawing from the market, then all that's going to happen is that rents are going to go up further. And it's going to be extremely difficult for the government to pursue that. And also remember, the Renters' Rights Bill isn't looking to come in till next summer. So we've got, and when they say summer, Angela Rayner said this will come in on day one. Well, it's not really day one, is it? It's like day 401. Well, perhaps not by the time it comes in, it'll be day 401. So, what they say and what they do, there's a big gap between them. So let's see what happens. New laws will get rid of bad landlords, says John. Kay says yes, with the right knowledge. Professional investors are capable of always making a good return based on good knowledge and mentorship. That's right, Robin. So education, I think, is going to be even more valuable than ever. Making sure that you've set yourself up in the right structure, making sure that you've got the right mortgage, making sure that you understand what the risks are. It's important to be properly educated, but I really do feel that this is a great opportunity for us. Thank you very much, Kay, for your words. I appreciate that. That's very sweet of you. And just to give you a little bit of a snapshot of capital growth since 2007, this is a chart from average house prices in the UK. So not Crewe or Stoke, but just average, okay? In 2007, an average house was 175,000. By 2023, that same average was 285,000. That's a 62% increase. So some people say, oh, property prices double every 10 years. Not really, actually. They don't. And this would be testament to that. Our property, the Minchell New Road property that I showed you first off, that's increased by 58% over that time. So very, very similar figures. And again, as I say, I think that's because we probably paid a little bit too much for it. But you can see that Crewe and therefore Stoke actually tracks the average in the UK. Now, why do I say this? I suppose because I say that if you are looking to invest long term, if you are looking to buy property and hold it, not flip it, but hold it for the long term, you will always do well, because property prices tend to reflect the devaluation of the currency. They tend to, reflect inflation. And I suspect we're going to go through an even more inflationary period very soon. And therefore, buying a property as an asset is always going to serve you really, really well. Here's some testimonials from some of our clients, nice things that people have said about us. We've probably had some horrible things that people have said about us as well, but I want to show you the nice comments. Best Nest are real people and a competent crew. When things are remote, it's essential that communication is effective and available when required. Best Nest get this right without doubt. Other organisations might be 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and via call screening or message services. And I think he meant to say, but we are not, Best Nest is not. Ian and Julie, as first-time property investors, HMO investors, we needed a trusted source of information and wanted to work with people who knew and understood how to navigate the complexities of this market. Best Nest have gone above and beyond in ensuring every aspect of the process is flawless, from seeking out the opportunities that match our requirements to ultimately managing our portfolio. We have received professionalism, sector expertise, authenticity, and targets delivered every time. An absolute winning combination. Well, how nice is that? And I promise you, I didn't pay them to say that. And we've got lots of other testimonies from very happy clients and customers as well. So as we come to the last kind of couple of slides tonight, what now? Well, this all depends on you. It depends on your goals. What are your goals? Because we all have different goals, don't we? For some of us, as we mentioned earlier on, it's time, freedom, it's legacy, it's cash flow, it's maybe getting out of your job, creating a legacy, pension, all those things that we mentioned at the beginning. And every one of us is different. Everyone has a different reason to do this or to get excited about investing in property. And so that's the first step, is for you to think about what you want to achieve. Let's say in the next 6 months, for example, what would you like to achieve in the first 6 months? So I just plant that as a little seed to think about. Now, I do believe in taking action, very much so. I know that sometimes I've been to webinars, I've been in the audience, I've been sitting and listening and thinking, and I've kind of said to myself, oh, I'll do it next week. I'll do it in October. I'll be ready in October. Oh, I'll do it 2025. That's going to be the year when I start investing. Yeah, because I'm not quite ready yet. No, I'll wait maybe I'll wait till Tom's left school when he's 18 in a couple of years' time. Then no, I know what I'll do is I'll wait till I get my bus pass. Oh, I'll wait till I get my pension. Oh, I'll wait till I'm dead. And that's what happens when you procrastinate, isn't it? Things don't get done. If you're ready to get going, you know you need to get going today. Not next week, not next month, not next year, today. And only you can make that commitment to yourself that you're going to get started, that you're going to get going. And it might be starting in a very small way. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to start in a very small way. I'm not going to ask anything from you for getting started at all. All I'm going to ask is that you book a call with me. That's all I'm asking, is you book a call so that we can together work out what your next steps need to be. Now, in the business, we have a very clear process for this, and I'll just quickly run through this with you. If you're interested in working with us at Best Nest, what can we do for you? Well, as you see, number one is an initial call to establish your goals and investment priorities. What is it you're looking for? What's your experience and knowledge so far? Is there a good match? Could we work together? Maybe we can, maybe we can't. Let's see. I also offer mentoring and training. Perhaps that's more appropriate for you. Maybe you need to go on a more intensive 12-month journey with me to learn everything there is to learn about HMOs, for example. And I certainly would recommend, if you're going to get into HMOs, you really should do some education and training. The next step would be to identify services that fit with you, that work for you and that are right for you. So is this sourcing? Is it mentoring? Is it training? Is it management? What is it you're looking for? We'll then agree a plan of action and a scope of works for sourcing, project management, or letting. Once that's agreed and we're all on the same page and we're all happy, we'll then sort out the contracts. We sign the contracts and we agree a start date. And that could be simply a start date to start getting you mortgageable, getting you ready, getting your finances up and running, understanding what opportunities there are for properties and so on, and finding you something to invest in. And then once we've done that, we then identify a client manager and key performance indicators, and we start work. And lots of our clients come to us because they want advice, training, and help. Many come to us because they've maybe already got a property, but they don't quite know what to do with it, or they don't quite know how to maximize it. Lots come to us because they want us to manage their property, because they've seen that their current agent isn't doing them any favors and they're not as proactive or as competent. And that has put them off either using an agent or carrying on developing their portfolio, because they feel that unless they can get a good agent, they're going to be stuck. So hopefully I can alleviate those concerns for you and show you that we're different and we do things differently. So whether you're interested in HMOs, buy-to-lets, commercial, you're interested in getting started, but you just need someone to kind of listen to you and to work it out with you, what you can do, what's achievable, I've put the link on the bottom there, and I'll send the link in the follow-up email to this webinar as well. Calendly.com/Wendy-W-large. It's a bit of a mouthful, but I might even be able to put it in the chat panel. HTTPS. But if you've got a camera and you want to take a photo of that, that will just go straight through to my booking page, and you can book a call. And let's just have a conversation. Let me see if I can help you in your next steps, whatever they might be.